through here just to see where we're at. So when we're on frame 0, our rock is pretty well obscuring our actor, which is okay because as we come down, the actor is revealed and we just get this really nice looking shot here at the end. Now I do want his shadow to kind of cast this way a little bit more, so I'm just going to really quickly do that by kind of editing where that shadow ends up. And to be honest, most of his shadow is going to be covered up by the rock at the points where he's moving. So really we don't need a lot of those keyframes that we set up before, but it's good to know that you can do that and add those. Just in our case, because we've added the rock, we don't need them so much anymore. So what I'm going to do is delete the animations from these. And then we'll just kind of rotate this. I'm just going to hold Control down and we're rotating the card that's on. It's a little bit difficult to do in 2D space, so let's jump back over to 3D. Then you can also see it better. So it's not going to have such great contact with his feet anymore, but again, because it's so blurred, we're really not going to see a big difference there. We're really mostly looking for the shadow to be integrated here on this side where it really gets lighter. So maybe not quite so much rotation there because we're looking at it from this angle anyway, so it's really going to still appear as if not a lot has changed once we get back out to the 2D view. So we need to turn up our blur on this shadow a little bit more. So it's just as blurry as those other shadows, kind of all around him. And then we'll go into our merge and turn that merge down. We're looking to get a color similar to what we have over here. And if you need to color correct the shadow a little bit, you can. Maybe come in here with a grade node. And it really needs to be just a little bit more blue, as you can see. So that black point will just come in and kind of push it a little bit bluer, just like that. And again, you'll want to unpremult by the RGBA.alpha. Now it's a little too blue, so we'll just kind of pull that back up in there. And that's something you can visually match pretty easily. Okay, so it's still looking maybe slightly dark compared to the things around it. So let's kind of maybe pull this down a little bit so it's lighter gray. There we go. That's much, much better. Sometimes it's easier to tell when you're zoomed out. Okay, so I'm just kind of clicking through here. And you can see that the shadow is going to move with him because he's moving and it's based on him. So we still get that nice movement in the shadow, but it's more subtle. However, now because we're not having so much contact with the feet, really before this was an issue too, we need to add just maybe a roto paint node in here to make his feet look like they have a little bit more contact with the ground. So I'm going to clear my properties bin, and right here before our shadow, I'm going to merge in a roto paint node. So we'll add a merge just like this, and we'll add a roto paint node, and we're just going to use this roto paint node to add a few little shadows right here underneath his feet. So we'll grab our brush tool. I'm going to turn this color all the way to black, so we'll turn that all the way down to black just like that. And then let's take our size down to, let's do about a 2, something really small. And then we'll just kind of come in here around his toe and his heel and create just sort of this little black spot around his foot. Now, this obviously doesn't look great, but it's about to in a minute. We're going to add a few other nodes that are really going to make this look so good. It will amaze you. Okay, so we've got that kind of added in there. You know, this one actually might be a little bit much, so maybe we could go in with our eraser tool and maybe just take a little bit of that away. You know, this really isn't quite hard enough, so I'm going to delete those 3, and we're going to take this size of the eraser down to a 2 also, and then we can use the same hardness and the same size. That looks better. So now remember, if we skip forward or really just to any other frame, we're not going to see those except for on the frame we drew them. So we need to select them all, go to lifetime and change it to all frames. And then in between the RotoPaint and the merge, let's add a blur node. This is the magic ingredient for making this look really, really good. So I'm going to add that blur node in there and then just kind of start to turn that up. You really don't even need to turn it up that high, just kind of right in there around 1 or 2. And it's just a few pixels. It's such a subtle thing, but it makes a huge difference. So now when I'm looking at this at full res, and I'm looking at him like this versus this, what a difference. So his feet really feel like they're casting kind of their own little shadows here. And you know, this still feels like maybe it could have a little bit more. So let's go back in with our brush and just add in just a little bit more right there. And again, let's make sure that our lifetime is set to all frames for that. Great. Okay, so now he's really well integrated. His shadow's looking much better as far as the big shadow that he's casting. And now what I'd like to do is work with that rock. So let's come in to our rock right in here after the scanline render and get the color of that rock looking better. So we'll add a grade node and just do our initial grade of just choosing that black point. So I'll grab kind of from the same places I did before. So just Control Shift to grab that black, and then we'll grab our white and Control Shift kind of in this bright area here, just to get a quick grade on that. And you can see it's a subtle difference. It's a little bit darker without it, which really we need to turn this down. It feels too bright, but it's still matching better with it. So we'll add another grade node after this one and start to come in, and I'm going to turn down my gain so that feels like it's in shadow from this mountain here. And also it needs to be blurred a little bit more, so I'm going to add a blur node after that and kind of start to turn that up, because this wouldn't be in focus in the way that everything else is. So turning up a blur pretty highly is going to kind of help fake some of that depth of field and just make that feel a little bit more realistic. Great. So very, very quickly we were able to add a rock in there and get it integrated by adding, you know, just a little bit of displacement on the geometry. And then in this lesson we were able to color correct and blur that, as well as fix the integration of our actor. So a lot of little tweaks, but those are the things that when they all come together really start to make this composite feel realistic. So now that we've taken care of that, let's move into our next lesson, where we'll be doing some more blurring for realistic depth of field with some of these other layers. So stick